Hello, everyone. Welcome to Something to Talk About Live. My name is Liz Owen. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the Director of Communications at PFLAG National. It's great to have you with us to kick off Pride. So I'm going to bring in our host, Jean Marie Nevada.
Liz Owen.
Hello. Happy Pride.
Happy Pride. Happy Pride. This year's Pride tiara.
Gorgeous. What is that made of?
It's all crystals.
Pretty.
So I'm both channeling good energy into my brain, we hope, and I'm being prideful.
Love it.
So we are talking about Pride today, and you're actually coming back as one with the guests today. So we actually get to hear from you. So I will see you in a little while, Liz Owen.
I'll be back.
Hey, everybody. My name is Jean Marie Nevada. My pronouns are she and her, if you use Spanish, ella. And every single week we get together to talk about something related to LGBTQ equality and inclusion. And as this is the first show of Pride Month 2022, can you believe how much time has gone by? We wanted to talk very much about Pride celebrations and what they mean to everybody. And I am really, really, really excited today because we have a whole bunch of the PFLAG National staff with us for today's show. Ready to talk about their experiences. So let's get some of the stuff in order first before we bring people on. So this week's article, as always, is posted on our website at straightforequality.org/discussion series, where you can access the article as well as some discussion questions if you would like to lead this discussion maybe with your family or with a group at work or your friends or random strangers in an airport. Totally up to you. And the article comes from today.com by Sarah Lemire. It is called What is Pride Month? Everything you need to know about the LGBTQ observance. And there is a lot to be said about Pride Month and particularly Pride celebration. So to give you a little history, New York City's first ever Pride March was actually held on Sunday, June 28th, 1970. That was the 1-year anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising. The organizers included Craig Rodwell, Fred Sargent, Ellen Brody, Linda Rhodes, and Brenda Howard, and it attracted thousands of participants. In fact, if you read accounts of what that was like, almost every single account that you will read will include at some point people saying they cannot believe how many people actually showed up. So that first march was not a party. There was no glitter. There were no disco balls as far as we know. There were no sequins. It was a protest. It was a protest march commemorating the 1-year anniversary of what had happened at Stonewall. And it was actually called the Christopher Street Liberation Day March, with Christopher Street being where the Stonewall Inn was and is still located. The route actually began at Washington Place between Sheridan Square and 6th Avenue in the Village, and it moved up 6th Avenue about 50 blocks. The interesting thing that a lot of people don't know is it is actually ended in Central Park in the Sheep Meadow with what was dubbed a giant gay inn, which I find fascinating, where people stayed and protested and just were who they were very openly and safely and together, which was probably the most important part of it all. After that year, it sort of took off and we started to see, especially in West Hollywood, we have the Christopher Street West celebration and then to other cities and international. It's estimated that right now the biggest Pride celebration in the world remains the one in New York City, although Sao Paulo appears to be pretty close behind when it comes to its numbers. And so with that, we wanted to talk a little bit about Pride parades and what that meant. My first Pride celebration, my first Pride parade that I actually went to was in Portland, Oregon. I was a senior in high school in a time a long, long, long time ago. That's what I can tell you. I went with one of my friends, and one of my biggest memories of that celebration actually was seeing PFLAG and thinking, there's people like that? And how excited I was to see those parents there. It really made an impression on me, so much that all these years later, here I am. But we don't just want to listen to my story. I want to bring in some of my colleagues. So we're going to try to do this in groups of 3. And the first group that I'd like to bring in is Diego, Brooke, and David to talk about their experiences. Hello, my friends. I'm so glad that you are here. So here's what I'd love to do. I'd love for you to first, we'll go in order, Diego, Brooke, and then David. Introduce yourself, tell people who you are and what you do at PFLAG. And I would love to know, first of all, what was your first Pride parade and how were you feeling there? What do you plan on doing this year? And do you have any advice for people who are planning on going to Pride? Diego.
Thank you so much. And thanks for doing this, Jean Marie. My name's Diego Sanchez. My pronouns are he and elle, and I am the Director of Advocacy, Policy, and Partnerships for PFLAG National. My first Pride was in Atlanta in 1979. The first Pride in Atlanta was 70, and it wasn't a celebration. It was an honoring of the first anniversary after Stonewall. My first was in 79 when I was an intern at the Coca-Cola company. And honestly, you asked how I was feeling. Very frightened. Those were the days in which people took photographs of people in Pride, and there weren't that many, and they would identify where you work and send it to your HR department. And it was, of course, not legal to be an LGBTQ plus person. So I did two things. I did the river rafting thing on Chattahoochee, which was mostly gay men. And then everyone who wasn't a gay man, which I also did that, was going down Peachtree Street for 3 or 4 blocks. And again, being exposed and very frightened, but very excited because I wasn't the only one. And that to me was just really phenomenal. What I plan to do this year, I'm in Massachusetts, my other home, and there are 19 throughout Massachusetts, throughout the Commonwealth. Boston Pride itself was dissolved 2 years ago, and in its place are going to be pop-up prides throughout Boston. That's where you didn't get a permit, but there you are. And there are formal ones throughout the Commonwealth, so I'll be doing those.
And any advice for people who are going to Pride maybe for the first time this year?
Absolutely. Go with someone if you can, but know that you're safe if you can't. And just enjoy the fact that there are several, it's a celebration of sorts, but it's also people standing up for rights that we don't yet have in full amount. That is going to be very present no matter where you are relative to Pride. And find the PFLAG chapters as they're marching and recognize, just knowing that there are generations of people that are connected to PFLAG, and all of them will be present.
Thank you so much, Diego. I appreciate your perspective because it definitely brings in different aspects of what Pride has been like through the years. Brooke, I say this because Brooke and I have been friends for a really long time, and it always sounds a little bit exhausted when we say each other's names.
We may have been at my first Pride together, Jean Marie, actually.
Really?
Maybe. I don't know exactly. But my first Pride was the year I moved to Washington, D.C. From Kansas City. And the two things I remember about it, and this is going to sound unusual, but it was two things that I had not seen in Kansas City ever. The first was the Dykes on Bikes. I had never seen anything so radical. I had never seen anything so cool. I was so infatuated. And the second thing was all the churches that were marching, which I had never seen so many supportive churches. And so that was really unusual for me. So that was my memory of the first Pride that I went to. This year, I'm going with my 2-year-old son. I've got some rainbow glitter shoes for him, and we're going to go and just see everything and take it all in. This will be his first Pride since we didn't do Pride last year. So it'll be really exciting for him to see everything. I have a feeling he's going to love all the rainbows. We already have a lot of rainbow stuff in our house, and he just walks around and says rainbow all the time. So I think that's going to be what happens. And my advice to people would be just take everything in. Just look for things that are unusual. Know that everybody is there to celebrate and to voice our opinion and just be part of it. I think that's probably the best thing to do. And find PFLAG and give them a hug. Because, you know, PFLAG parents love hugs and they love giving hugs.
Agree. Totally agree. I didn't know that, Brooke. That's exciting. We're going to have to figure the whole thing out someday, do our timelines together. David, one of the newest members of the PFLAG staff, tell us a little bit about your first Pride.
Hey, everybody. My name is David Kensley. My pronouns are he, him. I am on our development team, and so I support all of our corporate partners from a philanthropic standpoint. So this is a little embarrassing. I was trying to rack my brain, look through photos to be when was my first Pride? I think it's just second nature in our house. So I'll share a little story that is a little bit personal that means a lot to us around Pride. So my now husband and I, on our first date, actually, it was June the 25th, 2015. And I remember we were having conversations around all these states are legalizing same-sex marriage. Like, when do you think it's going to happen nationwide? And that following morning, June 26th, was when the Supreme Court let the landmark decision of same-sex marriage. So for us, it kind of like symbolizes the start of our relationship and our marriage. So that's always something that's been really important to us. This year, we will be celebrating Pride with our closest friends and family. We live in Birmingham, Alabama, and so we are super excited just to be a part of our community. And really the advice that I would give to somebody going to Pride for the first time is this community is all about celebrating diversity. Show up as who you are. By showing up as yourself, that's all you can do, and that is good enough. And make sure you have cash to tip your local drag performers. Please, please tip your drag performers if you see them.
Tip your drag performers, show up with cash. That is so, so important. Apparently, I don't know how to take myself off mute. Thank you so much, Diego, Brooke, and David. And I am going to let you go and bring in our next group, which is Eddie, Maggie, and Greg. It is such a colorful group. This is such a colorful group. Oh, actually, I have 1 second. There's Eddie. I was going to be like, that's not Eddie. I got a little confused. It's like the name test, even though everyone's names are underneath. And I clearly added a apostrophe to the beginning of my name this week. Welcome, everybody. Eddie, I'm going to ask you to go first, as I think the newest member of the staff who is joining us today. So tell us who you are, what your story is with your first Pride, and your advice for what you think people should do.
Yeah, I'm Eddie Funkhouser. I use they, them pronouns. I'm chapter engagement coordinator. And I went to my first Pride about 10 years ago, and it was in New York City, and I had only lived in rural areas, and so I had never really had an opportunity to go to a Pride, especially not one on the scale of New York City. And so going, I just remember feeling like, oh my God, there are so many LGBTQ people. Like, genuinely did not realize the scale of this community. It was really impactful for that reason. This year, I live in San Francisco now, no longer in rural areas. And so I'm going to celebrate Pride specifically by going to Trans March, which we have here. And there's also an intergenerational trans brunch on our Pride weekend that I'll be going to that I'm really excited for. And just spending time with chosen family in my community. And then along the lines of the practical advice David gave, I think my advice for someone going to Pride for the first time is bring water, especially if you're in a place where the summer is sunny. That's not San Francisco, but if you're in a place with a sunny day, you're going to want the water and sunscreen.
Yes, I totally agree. With the San Francisco one, it can be like winter Pride sometimes there. It's kind of an interesting experience, but wow, what a first place to start in New York City, and one of the biggest ones ever. Wow, I'm impressed. Maggie, I'm loving the sunglasses.
Thank you, Jean Marie.
So tell us about your first Pride, what you're doing this year, and your advice for Pride.
Yeah, absolutely.
And who you are for people who don't know you yet.
Absolutely. I'm Maggie Ardiente. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Director of Development at PFLAG National. Actually, my story is related to PFLAG because my first time marching in the Pride Parade was my first year at PFLAG. I was representing PFLAG with our friends at Marriott, who graciously invited us to march with them. The energy there was just so amazing. I had attended Prides before, but never marched. So it was my first time. We were giving away swag. We were giving away these sunglasses. I still have them from 2019. It was just such an amazing energy. And the folks at Marriott, I got to meet so many folks there. They were just the kindest, and they're so committed to diversity and inclusion. Just a wonderful experience overall. And I'm so excited that I'm going to be marching with them again at Capitol Pride this year, next next Saturday. Very excited about that. I'm bringing my 2 daughters to the festival on Sunday at DC. It's going to be their first time at the festival. It's going to be so much fun. And I agree with all the advice that everyone's been giving. I'll just add a fun one. Collect all the swag. I love everything rainbow. It's fantastic. I have so much rainbow stuff at home now. And they want you to wear their brands and all of the great things. And I think that it's so important to be visible. And so when you're wearing the rainbow flag or a PFLAG pin, you're really showing your allyship and support for the community.
You totally are. I agree with you completely. And wear it year round. Don't just wait for June. I so love the sunglasses on you. Greg, I'm trying to upstage me, and I think you did with your headpiece. Are those Oreos, Greg? Do you want to tell us about them and tell us about you?
They might be, yeah. So hi everyone, my name is Greg Kiski. My pronouns are he and him, and I am PFLAG National Social Media and Digital Content Manager. And my special guests today are Oreo's special Pride Packs, where you can actually write words of support as an ally to the LGBTQ plus community. And so if you want to head over to oreo.com/pride, you can find the nearest ones to you. So I couldn't show up to a Pride episode without them, Jean Marie.
Obviously. So I actually got my first pack this weekend. I was very, very excited. So that was pretty cool. So tell us about your first Pride and what you plan on doing this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to break the rules a little bit. My first Pride was actually when I was in college here in Lansing. And so I went to that one and I remembered thinking like, holy cow, there's so many people like me. And then the first big Pride I went to in Chicago, I think I had very similar feelings to Eddie, where I was like, holy cow, there is such connection and community of people just like me and other people different than me. And it was just, it took the feelings of my first one in Lansing, which is like, I'm so glad I was able to go here in Lansing, where I've been 12 years now, and have that experience and feel connected with people that I knew. But then going to Chicago Pride, where I knew the couple of people that I went with, my roommate and best friend and another friend from high school, and just thinking, holy cow, we met so many new friends. We danced in the street, on the side of the street. We met so many new people, met their stories of who had traveled across the globe. And so I just think that is the feeling of warmth and community that I remember. And I would definitely recommend hydration, but just remember to have fun and celebrate and really embrace the joy. I stepped out of my comfort zone. I had sequin shorts. I had all of the attire that you could think of that matched and upped even the headband I'm wearing right now. And you felt still part of that community. And I think that's so important to remember, and to find those PFLAG parents, those PFLAG community members, and give them that big hug. I just think is so special. And so this year, I think I'm just kind of going with the flow. You know, numbers are in Michigan for COVID are a little wavering. And so we're kind of testing it out. I'm going to join some virtual things. I'm going to figure out maybe what Chicago's doing, and still make the most of it. You know, Pride is not just an event, it is a moment for me. And so no matter what I'm doing, I'm going to have fun, I'm going to celebrate, and I'm going to exude the joy and a little bit of that reminder of the work that we still need to do.
I love that so much. Maggie, Eddie, Greg, thank you so much for being here. And let's bring in the next group of people, because I'm so enjoying these stories. We're bringing in Seychelle, Patrick, and Liz Owen is coming back with us.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. And so, Patrick, you look so beachy. I just had to say it. Where did that come from? I'm going to ask Seychelle to go first. Tell us who you are, about your first Pride, what you're probably doing this week, and your big piece of advice.
Sure. My name is Seychelle Brooks. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a chapter engagement coordinator at PFLAG National. And my first Pride was at 2015 in New York City, my hometown. And I loved it because my family's from the West Indies, and I'm used to like the festivals that they have in Carnival. And it felt so familiar in that sense, and the pride and the energy, that I didn't feel overwhelmed by it. It was like, felt very welcoming, especially with the stilts. I love when people are on stilts, and like from a child, I love that. I always wanted to do that. And I was like, one Pride, I'm going to do that. That's a goal of mine. So I'm practicing. For what am I doing for Pride this year? I usually make sure I connect with a lot of my friends who I know have come out recently. We talk and connect and like write ourselves letters. That's like the one time I actually like write and send like post-its to folks. And I'm going to continue to do that and also attend some of chapter events virtually I love to see like how different communities celebrate Pride and like what they love to highlight and things of that nature. And when it comes to advice, we talk about celebrating. I feel like we all have birthdays and we all celebrate our birthdays differently. Pride is the same way. Like you can celebrate it how you want to. Like it could be a tradition that you've picked up from someone else. It can change from year to year. The folks can change who you go with, but it's what brings you joy and how you can celebrate. So
I love that. And I am in with you on the stilts. If you want to take lessons, I am your girl. We will do this together, Seychelle. Patrick, tell us a little bit about your first Pride, what you're doing this year, and your piece of advice.
Of course. So hi, everyone. Patrick Cochran. My pronouns are he and him. My first Pride, it's hard to remember which one was my first one, but this was definitely one of my first, was actually on accident. I ended up at the New Orleans Pride. It was completely not planned. We just happened to be in New Orleans, my friends and I, and we were walking along Frenchman Street, and all of a sudden a float appeared in front of us. And it was really, really fun. I collected more necklaces than I ever thought I would own in my entire life because they just throw them at you. So it was really, really, really fun. I highly recommend accidentally going to Pride at some point if you have the chance. This year, I think, Capitol Pride is next weekend. So I'm sure I'll be doing something around that. It'll be nice to get outside. The weather should be nice. And then for advice, I think on the practical side of things, as others have said, it's important to have water. It's important to have sunscreen. And, it's also very important to have comfortable walking shoes, such as these lovely and very, very colorful Sperry's.
Most flexible of staffers at PFLAG.
So I think comfortable walking shoes, very, very important. But then beyond that, I would just say, bring a friend, bring a few, and make new ones, including your local PFLAG chapters who should be well represented. So that's my advice.
I love that. And I love the consistent product placement we have all managed to somehow squeeze into this. Liz Owen, we are getting to our last group, but you were my last person.
What do you mean product placement, Jean Marie? I cannot imagine what you could be talking about.
I'm sorry, are you holding the DC Comics Pride edition with a piece on the back?
I am, and Read with Love is on the back, and there are 3 incredible covers. And I have to give a shout out to your brother, Christopher Navetta, who designed this awesome ad about our Read with Love program that's on the back. So hi, I'm Liz Owen. My pronouns are she, her, Director of Communications at PFLAG. My first Pride, so I also grew up in New York City, Seychelles, and my first Pride was in New York City in the mid 80s. I was a teenager. I grew up singing at gay bars in the village from the time I was 13 years old. That was my happy place. That was chosen family to me. And the thing that I specifically remember about Pride was that this was during the HIV and AIDS crisis. It was a really hard time. Every week I would go back to this bar and someone else was gone. And Pride was a time for people to just come together and find a little joy during and still fight, right? I mean, it was back to fighting again around AIDS and HIV. And it was not lost on any of the people there that there were a lot of people who'd been there the year before and were not there with us that year. And it was a life-changing experience. And my advice is really rooted in that. I'm a straight person. I'm cisgender. Pride is a place for me to show up and be an ally. I celebrate Pride by celebrating other people. It is not mine to dictate. It is not mine to gatekeep. It is not mine to say, protect the children and it should be family friend. That is not my place or my role. My role is to celebrate the gorgeous, diverse celebration of freedom of gender and sexuality and liberation and all that means to people that I love. Because they did that for me in other ways, unrelated, like we each show up for each other. So as an ally, I think my role is to shine the spotlight, pass the mic, and just be there however people need me to show up.
I love that. I think that is such good advice for allies. I really appreciate that. Seychelle, Patrick, Liz, I am so glad that you're here. Thank you so much. And let's bring in our final group of PFLAG staffers. I am bringing in Sean, Jamie Henkel, and Mackenzie. And we're still shifting around. Patrick's going somewhere. He might, yes, Patrick is, there's Jamie. She's doing more product placement because not flexible. I'm going to start with Sean. Introduce yourself and your fabulous suspenders, Sean, and your hair to match. A little jealous.
Thank you. This is Susan. Hi, everybody. My name is Sean Connors. My pronouns are he and they, and I'm the chapter engagement manager here at PFLAG National. Oh, gosh. Okay, so my first Pride, I was 15 years old. It was in Boston in 2003, and I went by myself. I took a train down to the city, and it was completely overwhelming for me. I was really scared when I got there because I didn't know anybody, and it was my first time being around LGBTQ plus folks generally. But it quickly turned to a joyful experience, and I made some friends and I made some connections because it was before the internet. It was a really great time. So that was really awesome, and it felt like home. This year, I'm starting a new tradition in our household. My partner and I are both trans and queer, and so next weekend, we're taking a long weekend to celebrate ourselves in Vermont, and we're going to do some Pride activities there, but otherwise, we're just going to have a good time and learn some stuff. And I think in terms of advice for folks, I mean, sunscreen and water and good shoes are all great. I think it's also important for people to go in with an open mind to Pride and know that you're going to see things that are new, and it's a lot to take in, and it's a lot of stimulation. So make sure you make some time to just sit and be with it and soak it all in would be the number one thing that I could tell people.
I love that. And I really like your own little private Pride celebration. That's kind of cool. Thank you, Sean. Jamie Henkel, we are getting close to time, so we need to, the two of us remaining that need to do this, you and Mackenzie, what are you doing for Pride besides wearing a lot of rainbow stuff in your house?
Yes, so my first Pride was in Richmond, Virginia in 2004. It was a very small festival in the worst park in town, and everybody knew it. The city was not super into having Pride festivities, but there was a good showing. And this year for Pride, I will be spending time with sort of small groups of friends to celebrate rather than going to the big festival downtown here in Portland, because I'm just not ready to be in front of big crowds like that. And all of my advice is pragmatic. So water, sunscreen, comfortable shoes. My other piece of advice is if you are in one of those places that is really, really hot this time of year, leave your puppies at home. Their feet will hurt, they will get hot, they will get overwhelmed. So leave the puppies at home if it's really hot where you are.
I appreciate that. I wouldn't have even thought about that one, but you were totally right. I have had multiple Pride experiences where I wanted to say to people, why did you bring your dog? Thank you, Jamie Henkel, and thanks for flashing the Sperry's on camera also, so we all got a full view. Mackenzie, you are the final one to bring our Pride 2022 kickoff home. Tell us about your first Pride, what you're doing this year, and your big piece of advice for everybody.
Absolutely. So my first Pride was Boston Pride, I believe in 2016. I went with my friend Lucas. We met up with my friend Caroline in the city, and we just watched the parade and then ended up kind of walking along with it to get to see more of it. But for this year, I'm really planning on just taking the month of June on the weekends when I'm not busy to spend time with all of my friends and just do different things around the city. I don't have much interest in going to the New York City Pride Parade. I did that several years in a row. It's a lot of waiting around. It's very hot. I've seen a lot of it. So I'm less interested in that, but I'm more interested in a lot of the other fun events, which I'm very, very lucky to live in a city that has those. But my big piece of advice, if you are going to any Pride parades, is to be patient, because parades are a logistical nightmare in many ways. And you might find yourself waiting on a side street for quite a while before you get to kick off because of many different things that could happen. My other advice is to make plans with your friends, make exit strategies and exit plans, regardless, so you know where you're going at the end of the parade, you know where to go if something is to, not to be negative, but if something is to go wrong that is potentially dangerous, where you can go so you stick together and just keep each other safe. But those are the two big pieces of advice that I have.
I need to ask, am I seeing the Wonder Woman logo?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I love that. Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you so much. You were talking and I'm like, this is interesting. What's Mackenzie wearing? It shows about how deep I am, which is not deep at all. Jamie, Mackenzie, Sean, thank you so much for helping us wrap this one up. I so appreciate all of you. Well, everybody, somehow we managed to end on time anyway, even though we had a ton of guests and we wanted to pack in a lot of content for you. I am off to the Dodgers Pride game tomorrow night to see them play my beloved New York Mets. Let's go Mets. First place team, by the way, who also have a Pride logo. I'll mention that. Just as a reminder, if you want to lead with love, like a PFLAGger, you got to read with love. So make sure you check out our Read with Love program at pflag.org/readwithlove. Listen, everybody, I want you to have a very safe and very happy Pride celebration. Be careful out there, but also celebrate who you are and what you are able to do, and the fact that we can be together in lots of different kinds of ways. We really look forward to seeing you sometime soon. Maybe we'll run into each other at a Pride celebration. So until next week, we sign off the same way by reminding you to run fast, laugh hard, and most of all, be kind. And happy Pride Month, everybody. If you need help between now and next week, make sure you visit pflag.org/find to locate your local PFLAG chapter and give them a good hug at Pride. Bye, everybody. Have a great week.